That lady is a temptress. She's a siren. She's
Ooh,
lured him into the rocks.
They don't know why. That's interesting. She takes it from one bag and puts it in another bag. There's another bag. That confuses people.
I haven't heard that term in a while. She's a harlot. Almost.
She's well, harlot's bad, right?
She's been called a temptress, a siren, luring unsuspecting souls onto the rocks. Others have branded her a harlot, a calculated operator. These aren't just sensational whispers. They're the harsh judgments echoing across the internet about Meghan Markle, the woman whose every move seems to ignite a new firestorm.
And with all that said, with Love Meghan has to be the most insufferable TV show I've ever seen in my life.
For years, the narrative surrounding the Duchess of Sussex has been a whirlwind of ambition, public scrutiny, and drama so intense it could put any Shakespearean tragedy to shame. But what if the recent headlines, the relentless ridicule, and the accusations of a calculated charade are only scratching the surface of a much grander, more audacious strategy?
And I guess on days that are hard, that's really grounding and affirming to remember. And then some days I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is this life?
We're talking about a woman who traded royal palaces for Montecito mansions, who promised a new era of authentic self-expression, only to launch a lifestyle empire that critics are now calling her biggest misstep yet. You think you've seen the memes, the scathing reviews, the late-night jokes about her artisanal tea ceremonies, and whispered life advice. But what if all of that, even the spectacular failure of her highly anticipated Netflix show with Love Meghan, was merely a carefully orchestrated diversion? A smokescreen to conceal the true scale of her ambition and the astonishing lengths she's willing to go to achieve it. This isn't just about a TV show going wrong, it's about the shocking mechanics of modern celebrity, the power of perception, and how one woman might just be playing a game far more complex than any of us could ever imagine.
I am, and I'm not exaggerating, I'm not just saying this for rhetorical effect, I am physically nauseated watching that clip.
The saga exploded on March 4th, 2025, with the premiere of With Love, Meghan on Netflix. Billed as a relatable lifestyle and cooking series, it promised to showcase a different side of the former senior royal, a down-to-earth mom sharing recipes and genuine life advice from her Montecito kitchen, bathed in the soft glow of what she hoped would be public adoration. Instead, it sparked an immediate, furious backlash, becoming a lightning rod for criticism, viral memes, and rampant speculation about its swift demise. Critics and viewers alike piled on, branding the show everything from smug to nauseating. Even unfiltered voices like Joe Rogan, never one to mince words, publicly lampooned Meghan's teary-eyed moments as Oscar-worthy crocodile tears, questioning the very authenticity of her entire public persona. The internet predictably embraced the chaos, unleashing a torrent of TikTok parodies and scathing reviews that painted the show as a tone-deaf vanity project. But here's the crucial question. Was this widespread derision, this spectacular implosion, an accidental misstep, or a deliberate move in a much larger, more intricate game of chess?
You just can't keep faking it. It's too hard.
The official narrative is that the show simply failed, but the real story, the one whispered among Hollywood insiders, suggests something far more calculated. While the public was busy dissecting every carefully plated meal and whispered monologue, a deeper, more unsettling truth began to emerge. The headlines screamed cancellation, and the rumor mill churned furiously after the show's lackluster debut, with critics describing the viewing experience as queasy and exhausting. Imagine trying to rebrand yourself as relatable while surrounded by a full production crew, under perfect lighting, meticulously capturing every slow-motion pour of a teapot and every edible petal. The show's aesthetic was so polished, it felt less like a genuine invitation and more like an Instagram filter come to life. Her season-ending whisper, "Here we go, it's a business," was meant to solidify her mogul status, but it landed with the thud of a calculated confession, not a passionate declaration. Social media, of course, had a field day, mocking her style, her earnest monologues, and those suspiciously perfect beach videos. Jimmy Fallon even famously joked about her hand-making pretzel bags, comparing it to the People's Martha Stewart having an identity crisis. A viral X user perfectly encapsulated the sentiment. Watching Meghan rebag pretzels is like watching a duchess play peasant with a $14,000 kitchen as her backdrop. The internet declared it cringe and a genre of its own. But here's the kicker. Could this spectacular public flailing have been part of the plan all along? A necessary sacrifice to pivot to something far more impactful?
Now make yourself cry. Yeah. Oh, I can do that so well. Oh my God, it's crazy. They're like, Meghan, 1 tear, left eye, go. Give me 3 seconds.
The numbers painted a bleak picture, at least on the surface. Netflix reported that, with Love, Meghan garnered a seemingly respectable 12.6 million viewing hours in its first week. Sounds impressive, right? But for someone who regularly claims to be one of the most talked about women in the world, those figures were decidedly mid-tier. To put it in stark Hollywood terms, blockbuster Netflix shows routinely hit tens of millions of hours in their opening days, sometimes even 100 million or more. Meghan's offering barely cracked the platform's top charts, a performance that whispered underwhelming rather than mega hit. This lackluster showing immediately fueled rumors that Netflix might simply let the show fade quietly into the streaming ether. No official cancellation, no scathing press release, just a slow, almost imperceptible ghosting. And while Meghan's ever-vigilant PR team quickly countered, insisting with Love, Meghan was alive and well and pointing to Netflix's early green light for a second season as definitive proof, industry insiders were already whispering about axes being sharpened. Because in Hollywood, filming a season doesn't automatically guarantee it will ever see the light of day.
That's the big distraction.
That's the big distraction right there.
There's a war room apparently in England where they're trying to figure out what to do.
Oh, really?
I heard did you hear about that?
This wasn't even Meghan's first dance with Netflix's chopping block. Back in 2021, her animated project Pearl was quietly axed before it even got off the ground. A vanity piece about a young girl inspired by historical women, jettisoned when Netflix decided kids' content wasn't worth the escalating PR headaches. The whispers of a pattern, a quiet pulling of the plug, began to form, creating a palpable tension behind the scenes. The show itself, beyond the viewership numbers, was a study in aesthetic excess and what many perceived as a profound disconnect. Every single frame dripped with curated perfection, bees buzzing around wildflower honey, Meghan microdosing rose salt, and ceramic spoon holders that screamed, "I'm relatable, but make it luxury." Critics were relentless, labeling it smug, detached, and tone-deaf in an era where most people are budgeting for gas money, not curating artisanal jam collections. The British press, always eager to weigh in, was particularly savage. The Times branded it worse than smug and syrupy, while The Telegraph declared it far worse than feared. Even the New York Post didn't mince words, calling it beautiful but boring, vapid, and entitled. One reviewer confessed to feeling physically nauseated watching a clip, a sentiment that echoed across social media platforms where users mocked Meghan's attempt to romanticize the ordinary while conspicuously surrounded by immense wealth. This wasn't just criticism, it was an outright rejection of the carefully constructed narrative, creating an undeniable friction between Meghan's desired image and the public's perception. What happens next will shock you, but first, you need to understand the powerful forces that were already at play.
Switching gears, Meghan Markle just announced her new lifestyle brand called As Ever, which is a little confusing because it used to be called American Riviera Orchard.
Hold on, it gets worse. Despite the overwhelming tide of derision, a curious counter-narrative emerged. Some celebrities and an undeniable contingent of think pieces rushed to Meghan's defense, framing the backlash as rooted in racist double standards or unfair, impossible expectations. One op-ed argued the show was simply about romanticizing the ordinary, though it's genuinely hard to see how dipping fingers into imported rose salt or arranging perfectly plump olives qualifies as ordinary for the average viewer. Figures like Gwyneth Paltrow, who even made a cameo, and chef Jose Andres, who publicly praised Meghan's charity work, seemed willing to give her the benefit of the doubt. Even a YouTuber defended her when her podcast name, Confessions of a Female Founder, was accused of being copied, calling the plagiarism claims unlikely. But this support felt noticeably tepid, almost forced, compared to the tidal wave of criticism. This conflicting reaction only added layers to the already complex public narrative. It wasn't just about a show anymore, it was about loyalty, perception, and the thorny intersection of celebrity, royalty, and social justice. The stage was set for a much bigger confrontation, one that would drag a controversial figure directly into the heart of the Meghan Markle storm. Enter Joe Rogan, a figure as polarizing as Meghan Markle herself, who has been relentlessly targeting her and Prince Harry ever since they traded royal duties for California dreams. On his massively popular podcast, The Joe Rogan Experience, he's seized every opportunity to skewer the couple, particularly Meghan. He mocked Harry as the Duke of Sussex with the sarcastic inflection of someone calling out a guy who insists on being addressed as captain at a costume party.
You're playing a critical role for our future and that of our children. Seeing our world through the lens of community is so important because we need to redraw the lines of how we engage with each other, both online and off.
Rogan even floated a half-joking, yet deeply cutting theory that Meghan is the leader of a cult, with Harry as her emotionally kidnapped follower, isolated from his royal roots, wandering friendless in Los Angeles while Meghan meticulously builds her empire of artisanal jams and hand-rebagged pretzels. In one memorable episode, he brazenly called America's obsession with royalty bizarre, questioning why anyone would fangirl over a family whose ancestors were, as he put it, colonizers. This wasn't just celebrity gossip, it was a cultural battle playing out in real time, shaping public opinion and amplifying the existing tensions around Meghan's carefully cultivated image. Rogan's relentless verbal assaults, amplified by his millions of listeners, stripped away any remaining veneer of untouchability from Meghan's public persona. But wait, there's a twist, and it's a critical one. Rogan also took direct aim at Meghan's emotional displays, particularly a recent appearance on Jamie Kern Lima's show. There, Meghan showed up in a strategically curated, relatable mom mode, seemingly no makeup, kids' names subtly stitched onto her shirt, and a perfectly timed tear as she spoke about proving she's enough. Rogan, predictably, wasn't buying it for a second, branding her sobs as Oscar-worthy and suggesting it was all a meticulously rehearsed performance. Meghan's tearful moments, a consistent element of her public appearances, have become a lightning rod for skepticism among her critics. Body language analysts, dissecting clips, even noted how her blinking sped up precisely when she mentioned Harry, hinting at discomfort or, more provocatively, calculation. The internet, ever quick to coin a phrase, dubbed these displays the Soft Life Olympics, with one ex-user sarcastically quipping, "Meghan, one tear left I go, give me 3 seconds." These emotional presentations, whether on Lima's show or in her infamous 2021 Oprah interview, have relentlessly fueled accusations that she's operating from a how to cry on camera playbook, a performance designed to elicit maximum sympathy and deflect from deeper scrutiny. That Oprah interview, a global media sensation, was perhaps the biggest single event to shape public perception of Meghan Markle. Sitting in a meticulously manicured California garden, dressed like she was starring in a high-budget soap opera, Meghan dropped a bombshell. She claimed royal family members had allegedly questioned how dark her son Archie's skin might be, even before he was born. Oprah's stunned "what?" became an instant iconic meme. Meghan framed herself as a person of color shocked by the monarchy's insensitivity, a narrative that resonated with millions globally. But her refusal to name names left the accusation hanging in the air, fueling intense speculation without resolution. While Harry later clarified it wasn't the Queen or Prince Philip, the lack of specifics only deepened the mystery, creating a vacuum that the media and public were eager to fill. Buckingham Palace's response was a masterclass in evasiveness. They were saddened, would address it privately, and hoped everyone would move on. But the allegations lingered, unconfirmed and unchallenged by any royal publicly calling her out. A 2023 Vanity Fair report even claimed Meghan privately told King Charles who made the remarks, which raises profound questions about why she didn't go public if she truly had the receipts. The same interview saw her reveal suicidal thoughts while still a working royal, claiming a senior staff member offered help only if she left the family, a detail that sounded less like genuine support and more like a manipulative negotiation tactic. The British press pounced, calling her manipulative or exaggerating for sympathy, while Harry, ever loyal, warned that history was repeating itself, invoking the ghost of Princess Diana. Critics, however, continually pointed out the glaring lack of concrete, verifiable evidence arguing her claims relied solely on her narrative, a narrative that was increasingly being questioned. Meghan's ventures into the political arena certainly haven't helped her case, further muddying the waters of her carefully constructed image of benevolent neutrality. In 2020, she and Harry released a Time 100 video, a seemingly innocuous clip urging Americans to vote in the most important election of our lifetime. Their call to reject hate speech and misinformation was widely interpreted as a thinly veiled, yet decidedly anti-Trump jab. Despite their insistent claims of political neutrality, a narrative that always felt rather flimsy given their high-profile status, Buckingham Palace was forced into a frantic damage control scramble, issuing an awkward clarification that Harry was no longer a working royal, and thus not bound by the monarchy's strict political impartiality rules. This incident didn't just highlight their perceived hypocrisy, it exposed a gaping chasm between their public statements and the implicit messages they were sending. It chipped away at their credibility, proving that even seemingly innocent calls to civic duty could backfire spectacularly when delivered by figures under such intense global scrutiny. You think that's bad? Keep listening, because the layers of this particular onion just keep peeling back, revealing more and more calculated decisions. The controversies surrounding Meghan weren't isolated incidents. they began to coalesce into a discernible pattern, revealing a strategic approach to public narrative that prioritized control and self-preservation above all else. Remember that detail about Project Pearl being quietly axed by Netflix in 2021? Described as a vanity piece about a young girl, it was scrapped, with Netflix allegedly deeming children's content not worth the PR headaches associated with the Sussex brand. But here's where it gets really messy. A British author later publicly claimed Meghan had lifted the concept directly from her books, alleging she received no response when she tried to raise the issue. While Pearl faded into obscurity, its ghost continued to haunt Meghan's Netflix ambitions, setting a worrying precedent for With Love, Meghan. This wasn't just a creative misstep, it hinted at a deeper disregard for established norms and intellectual property, suggesting a willingness to bypass traditional channels in pursuit of her vision. The fact that Netflix even had to deny rumors of sending legal threats to a celebrity chef who criticized With Love, Meghan is a stark indicator of just how touchy and volatile the situation had become behind the scenes, far removed from the polished kitchen counter seen on screen. This consistent narrative of victimhood, coupled with what critics perceive as manipulative emotional displays, became a cornerstone of Meghan's public strategy. Her claims of suicidal thoughts while still a working royal, alongside the assertion that a senior staff member offered help only if she left the family, sounded less like a cry for support and more like a carefully crafted negotiation tactic designed to create maximum leverage. The British press, already wary, pounced on these statements, labeling her manipulative or exaggerating for sympathy, while Harry, ever her staunch defender, ominously warned that history was repeating itself, drawing a direct and for many incredibly problematic parallel to his late mother, Princess Diana. However, a significant segment of the public and media continuously highlighted the striking lack of concrete evidence to corroborate her most serious claims, arguing that her narrative relied solely on her own testimony. This fundamental reliance on her unverified account, presented without external proof, left a gaping credibility chasm. It wasn't just a difference of opinion, it became a deep-seated distrust, fueling the relentless scrutiny and the widespread perception that every public appearance was less about genuine emotion and more about a calculated performance. This underlying current of skepticism became the perfect breeding ground for even more explosive accusations to take hold. The fallout from With Love, Meghan, and the preceding controversies created a turbulent landscape for Meghan Markle, shifting public perception dramatically. Despite her team's insistence on a second season being greenlit, with reports even suggesting it was filmed back-to-back with the first, the silence from Netflix on an air date has been deafening, fostering speculation that the show's future remains precarious. This ambiguity reflects a broader industry pattern. Even highly anticipated projects with A-list talent can quietly vanish if they fail to deliver. The narrative of With Love, Meghan being a calculated business move, rather than a genuine passion project openly admitted by Meghan herself, backfired spectacularly. It stripped away any illusion of authenticity, leaving critics and a significant portion of the public feeling duped. Her subsequent efforts to reassert normalcy, like claiming normal friends and attending group Pilates classes, felt like desperate attempts to counteract the tone-deaf accusations, but they often landed with an air of defensiveness rather than genuine connection. This wasn't just a misstep, it was a profound miscalculation in how to navigate the treacherous waters of post-royal celebrity, highlighting a continuous struggle to reconcile her aspiration for global influence with the public's demand for genuine relatability. The industry's reaction, from quiet whispers of disappointment to outright rejections from potential collaborators like Dolly Parton, underscored the growing wariness around investing in the Meghan Markle brand. The ripple effects of this shifting public perception extended beyond her Netflix ventures, impacting her broader entrepreneurial ambitions. Her lifestyle brand, American Riviera Orchard, later rebranded as Ever, launched with much fanfare and indeed sold out some initial products like jams and cookie mixes. However, the accompanying media narrative often focused on the sheer disconnect of luxury artisanals from the everyday lives of most people. This continuous tension between her aspirational image and her critics' accusations of being out of touch illustrates a central dilemma in Meghan's strategy. While some elements of her approach, like her direct communication on social media and attempts at building community, mirror modern PR tactics, the consistent underperformance of her major projects and the persistent accusations of inauthenticity indicate a struggle to convert visibility into sustained positive engagement. The public's appetite for genuine narratives, combined with the relentless scrutiny of every detail, means that even minor inconsistencies are magnified. The question remains, can Meghan pivot effectively from a narrative of perceived victimhood and calculated ambition to one of authentic leadership and sustainable influence? Or will she continue to be trapped in a cycle of controversy and defensive maneuvers? This entire saga, from the initial royal exit to the With Love Meghan debacle, is more than just a celebrity news story. It's a profound expose on the fragile nature of fame in the digital age and the immense pressure to maintain a perfect public facade. It reveals the strategic maneuvering of PR teams, the cutthroat nature of streaming deals, and the brutal impact of social media on individual reputations. Meghan Markle's journey highlights how even the most privileged positions and meticulously crafted images can be shattered by a confluence of public skepticism, media scrutiny, and perceived missteps. The lingering questions about the veracity of her past claims, the perceived hypocrisy in her actions, and the consistent struggle to connect authentically with a broad audience continue to shape her public identity. As her Netflix deal potentially concludes and she seeks new ventures, the industry watches to see if she can truly redefine her narrative. What does this mean for other celebrities attempting to build empires outside traditional structures? And how will the public's relentless demand for authenticity reshape the very landscape of celebrity for generations to come? Only time will tell if Meghan Markle can finally crack the code of sustained public adoration, or if her legacy will forever be marked by the captivating chaos she leaves in her wake.